This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Is love always good? Is it true that love wins over everything? Common sense says that no matter how disastrous the outcome of a certain action, if the intention behind it is a loving one, then that action could be considered good, or at least forgivable. Dr. Susi Ferrarello thinks we can do better than this. In her book, The Ethics of Love, she discusses the difficult intersection of love and ethics. Love is the most important component of our emotional life on a personal, social, and interpersonal level, and yet not enough education is invested in learning how to love each other in a decent, healthy way. Dr. Ferrarello shows us the importance of ethics for love in the same way as she would discuss the importance of logic for reasoning. Ethics is the heart of love in the same way as logic is the brain of reasoning. Although it is possible to spend a life without loving anyone, loving someone and being loved according to the best of our intentions and the best of our possibilities is the most reasonable thing to do to get through life in a meaningful and fulfilling way. Valeria Teles interviews Dr. Susi Ferrarello, the author of The Ethics of Love. Susi Ferrarello, Ph.D., is an assistant professor at California State University, East Bay. She completed her doctoral studies in philosophy at the Sorbonne in Paris. She also has an MA in Human Rights and Political Science from the University of Bologna. She received her accreditation in philosophical counseling in New York under the direction of Dr. Lou Marinoff. Currently, she teaches at the California State University East Bay and Saybrook University. She has taught courses in language, philosophy, and history, and has lectured and presented papers at universities in the US, Italy, Japan, Poland, Belgium, France, and the UK. Meet Dr. Susi at practicalintentionality.com and psychologytoday.com/intl/contributors/Susi-Ferrarello-PhD. Here is the interview with Dr. Susi Ferrarello.
In your own words, who is Dr. Susi Ferrarello?
Hi, Valeria. Thanks for having me here. Who am I? I don't know. That's already a very philosophical question. I'm an Italian who came to the Bay Area 7 years ago now to find my dream job. I love philosophy. I wanted to study and do philosophy in my life, and California State University gave me this opportunity. So, I've been doing research in philosophy ever since.
I love philosophy for some reason. It might be the openness. It's almost like scientists of reasoning, and you're always open. Why did you become interested in philosophy, Susi?
A little bit for what you said. It's the science of thinking, right? You are free. You are incredibly free when you do philosophy, because you can really go anywhere, and it's flying above everything. I mean, what you gain from philosophical research is the big picture of your life or a subject you're studying or a lived experience that you can't understand. So, it's a kind of a discipline that touches everything and gives you sense, a meaning of everything you try to observe. I love it.
Yeah, me too. I love what you said about philosophy giving you this sense of the big picture, giving us the opportunity to see the big picture. That is so true as well. But there are so many other nuances, right, Susie? My second official question for you today is the main topic of our conversation today, which is another topic I love. And I have to use the same word, love. So, how do you describe what love is today?
I'm writing, now it's over. I will publish this book the coming year with Routledge, this book on the ethics of love. And it's actually my second book on the topic because my first book was The Phenomenology of Sex, Love, and Intimacy. And now in this book, I'm investigating the possibility of an ethics of love. You know, in English, you are a little bit, we are a little bit at the loss of words when we try to define love, because we have just this word, love. And in fact, the nuances when we speak about love are so many. I generally use Greek, who had so many words and so many gods devoted to each of these words. So one thing is eros, the erotic impulse to love. Another thing is stergo, the kind of balanced, encompassing form of love. Another thing is phileo, the friendship. Or another kind of love is anteros, the love that wants to be loved back. What was more interesting for me in this book about the ethics of love I was working on now was, the possibility of seeing if there was a space to be decent to each other when it comes to love. In the sense that in our society, in general, the general perception is to think that, love is a sentiment, is a feeling. You cannot comment love. You cannot have any kind of decision about it. Love is love and is always good. And, since I work as a philosophical counselor, I happen to have many clients in my office that are in some kind of trouble because we are not sufficiently educated about love. I mean, it is true that the intention of love is always good. But, in the same way as we learned what to do if we have a stomachache and how to prevent a stomachache, right? It would be really beautiful if we knew how to prevent to hurt ourselves, to feel deprived or depressed, or to hurt others in love, and what to do when this happens. So, I started investigating the chance of an ethics in love. I mean, being able to do some ethical reasoning when we behave in a loving way, when we talk about love. Like logic is the discipline that allows us to reason in a way that is understandable for each other. Ethics seems to be the discipline that helps us to love each other in a way that is decent, in a way that is comfortable, good for everyone involved. Yeah, that is in general the idea that I'm focusing on when I think about love today.
I wonder if the ethics are connected to values, belief systems, and even conditionings, like biological conditionings. Would you say so?
Yeah, there are different ways to understand ethics. So there's an evolutionary way of considering ethics that certainly puts an emphasis on conditionings. Neuroethics, for example, now consider ethics as something connected to the structure of our brain. And psychological ethics emphasizes the role that our society plays on the decisions that we make and the options that we are left with in the moment in which we have to make an important choice. In general, I like to think of ethics as the science that helps us to choose what is right and wrong. And it is true. I mean, we are born with a certain body, within a certain family, in a certain geographical area. So all these represent objective conditionings to our actions. But, as Aristotle taught us, it is also true that we can develop through time a character of our own that helps us time by time to make choices that are good for our eudaimonia, as he said, for our flourishing, for our well-being. So, even if there are certain situations that are pre-given, ethics is exactly that discipline that tells us, hey, you have the choice. You can make decisions that are right for yourself. So go for it. And I like reflecting and investigating in this area.
It really sounds to me like the idea of choice is... it might come from when you say even like our own choices, making an individual choice. It has to do with a deconstruct of belief systems. We need to kind of, if possible, and maybe that's why I contemplate these days, I have been kind of reflecting about control and choice. How much choice do we really have? For me, it came from deconstruction of belief systems. Maybe not values, but belief systems, a lot of them. And for that, I needed was my path to spirituality. Philosophy, too, I would say, helped a lot. But mainly spirituality. So I'm wondering do you integrate somehow spirituality to this idea of love, of the ethics of love?
So we are working in class actually with my students these weeks on the notion of spirituality, because it's a word that we are given since the Middle Ages, since the rise of Christianity, and it is curious how spirituality and religion today seem to point to two different directions, not opposite, but yet somewhat different. Personally, I try to keep my spirituality as something private, and I have difficulties still to understand if my religion has to do with my spirituality or not, because spirituality seems to have a more concrete nuance. I mean, religion seems to speak to value systems, to a kind of a structure for my deeds, while spirituality is something that accompanies me in my daily life. It's a collection of rituals, of guidelines to behave in certain situations. So, but I think that it informs who I am, but it's not something that takes part in the object of my studying yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think I asked the question because the introduction you sent me for your book, the book that you're writing, that you have been mentioning, The Ethics of Love, you said something very interesting that caught my attention immediately. You said, I believe that giving up on unconditional love means to lose the opportunity to connect with a vital, almost divine source of energy. So that really resonated. That's why I asked.
You got me. Yeah.
So that's very spiritual, if we can say that, call it that. Talk to me about unconditional love, Susie. What does it mean to love unconditionally?
Working on that chapter was the most difficult part of my job and was so surprising because before writing that chapter, I also wrote a post for Psychology Today because I have my online space there. And I wrote about unconditional love, and I was so surprised because after that, I received plenty of emails from people who told me quite aggressively that my idea of unconditional love was somewhat disrespectful. And I was really surprised. But probably when we speak about unconditional love, we touch deep chords of our being humans and also of our sense of duty, I guess, from each other. So what did I say? Basically, I think that unconditional love lies in our ability to see the other person. What Lacan often says, for example, when he spoke about love, is that, in love, you give what you don't have to somebody who doesn't want it, which is a wonderful summary of the game of projections that very easily are triggered by love. I think that unconditional love is this ongoing effort that we make to try to stop this projecting game and try to see the person we love for who he or she really is, without trying to expect, without trying to want the person different from what he or she is. So, the mother who wants the daughter to become a lawyer or to marry that guy, yeah, okay, you will love her independently of that. Now, what's the problem here? The problem is that unconditional love is quite challenging. If you want to love unconditionally, I don't know, a son or a daughter that are addicted with heavy drugs, if your partner is abusive, if your parents are highly disrespectful of your freedom, in that case, unconditional love become challenging. And that's where I think some of my readers felt in disagreement with me. I think that in these cases as well, unconditional love is possible. Unconditional love doesn't mean that you have to merge with the other person. It just means that, okay, you realize that your partner is abusive, and with all the love you have left, you say, okay, I see you, I understand your problems, I will have my life. That doesn't mean that I don't love you anymore. I mean, being able to set boundaries do not imply that when you set those boundaries, you force yourself to not love that person anymore. That is a violence for yourself and the other. I think it's much more, helpful to be honest to yourself, recognize that there is love, but that love is incompatible with the kind of life you would like to have. Yeah, that is my general idea for unconditional love. Being able to see the person you are loving for who this person really is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. it comes to me every time as a message that this is already fulfillment, that life itself is unconditional love. To be in a human body,
Completely.
it's already unconditional love.
Completely.
If we can see ourselves navigate this reality through those lenses, then it's so much less challenging. It might not be easy, but it's less challenging to see others and life itself, everything that is here, as unconditional love, unconditional wholeness, unconditional happening, whatever this is. And that's how I tend to think. And it helps me to see the big picture and become a lot more kind and merge with life itself in harmony and kind of sing most of the time and kind of dance the dance of harmony. That really, really has helped me.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with you. And with this, we come back to Middle Ages philosophy with the fathers of the church, with the philosophical theories that were forming right before of Christianity. So the idea of God as being and being as love. I mean, there's no space left without that. I mean, ontology is exactly this. So the being itself is this power that keeps everything together. And we find theories, this same theory in Empedocles, in his theory, in his cosmology of the spheros, he says that things come together through this power of love. Or Heraclitus, or Stoicism. It's a form of rational love, in the sense of being able to understand this power that already keeps things together. And if you trust rationally this structure of being, your life can be a little more peaceful.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. I often refer to it as the impossible, this idea of realizing that we are the impossible already. We are fulfillment already. So it's like the impossible being realized. How can this
really
be?
Beautiful. That's really beautiful. I never thought about that. Yeah.
It's like impossible to be talking to you right now. How could this be? How could this happen? I don't know. I have no idea. I can't rationalize it, but it is happening.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. And I love the way you say when it comes to unconditional love too. You said something beautiful in the introduction of your book, The Ethics of Love. You say, what hurts in loving unconditionally is our inability to love ourselves in our own limits. It resonates true to me as well.
Yeah, because, that's the problem of projections, right? So you move the attention from yourself to the other, and you start expecting things from the other that, in fact, you would like to have for yourself. I don't know, the typical situation of couples. So he demands more attention from her or vice versa. Well, in fact, probably his soul, his being, he's demanding more attention from himself. Or vice versa again. So, when we are incapable of unconditional love, is because there's some kind, I don't know, I don't have the answer, but my intuition is that there's some kind of enmeshment for which we don't understand where we are. We are not in contact with ourselves. And so all the wounds of our soul tend to reflect on the other. And that's a game over. Because, of course, we are responsible for our care, our well-being, our happiness. And if we lose touch and contact with ourselves, then it will become very, very difficult to love ourselves and others. And I think that unconditional love is the via regia to the best way to come in touch with your deep self and being able to see all the other beings around you, which can be even a flower, or the beautiful day that is outside.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Ah.
Yeah.
Yes, Susie. I love the wisdom that flows through you. Yes, yes, yes. I love the way you talk about philosophy too. In the book, you say philosophy was born as love for wisdom, but in fact, what they love is reasoning. It's reasoning. So true. So I have one more warm-up question, and then I have a few questions about your book left here. Let me ask you this question. What do you love most about being in a human body?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. That's a very beautiful question. I love, I should apologize for that towards Stoicism and certain Christian doctrines, but I really love the sensuousness of my body. In the sense that I love that I can perceive. I love the taste of the food. I love the effects that a hug has on me. I love kissing. I love dancing. I really love the connection to senses that my body have. And I must say I'm very lucky because I was born in a healthy body with a healthy mind. So I could really enjoy all this. And I feel very, very, very grateful for that. Of course, there are certain philosophical schools that say, yeah, but you shouldn't stop to your senses. You should go deeper. And I promise I will do that. But if we talk about what I love about my body, I really love being in contact with my senses. Yeah.
I love that answer. It makes me think about something that some of my guests say here on a podcast. This is the embodiment of love. When you're you're so grounded in this that we call the body, and then we just let these energies flow and do what they do and just experience the environment and everything it's here now, that's present.
Completely.
That's a beautiful, beautiful answer. And a lot of times we go to the mind, right, for the light, but the body itself is amazing.
I totally agree. Yeah.
So you write in the book, The Ethics of Love, we have been talking about. What is the main inspiration and intention of writing this book, Susie?
That's a very good question. Certainly me. In the sense that the past life I had, I come from a challenging family. So I had to learn how to love and how to be decent in loving the people I loved. So I had to really learn it because I didn't have good examples. They were a little too complicated, but everything is meant to be. So certainly that was a step I had to take in my life. And also, growing up, I met with women. I encountered in my life women that some of them died, some by suicide, another one, she let herself die, another one in an accident, and their death was out of love. They were heartbroken from their partners, and they never found their way out of that hurtful way of loving. I was very young when I met them. I was in my early 20s, so I never had a chance to bring any comfort to them or even to understand what was going on. Their death just left an impression in my head. And I think, that in this book I tried also to bring some kind of meaning to those experiences. It's really, really sad to see that love can bring also this kind of desperation. And I hope that as human beings, we can evolve to a psychological, psychic level in such a way that love would mean only positive, warm things. I don't think we are there yet, though. So, that's why I wrote this book.
What an interesting inspiration to write a book. When you talk about everything is meant to be in a way, so do you believe in destiny and some sort of purpose, individual purpose for this human experience, Susie? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I'm somewhat look at Jung when I say that Jung or Husserl in phenomenology. I think that everything that happens in your life is an opportunity to make meaning, to make sense, to build your way. And somehow your soul, your being is built in such a way that you have to understand that thing in your life. You have to make sense of it in your life. If you miss that meaning, if you miss that sense, then, you would feel a little bit uncomfortable on the chair. It's as if, or in your bed, it's as if making meanings in your life is the main goal of your being here. At least for me, at least that's the way in which I see things. And if you miss the opportunity for that meaning, nothing tragic happens, but you might feel a little more restless, a little bit more uncomfortable with yourself. So you need to catch that opportunity.
Coming from the space of individual separated self from life in a way, that makes a lot of sense, that we are always navigating through our emotions, belief systems, and values, and then we need to rewrite these systems when something happens that challenge the very core of what we think we are or believe in. So that makes sense. But I tend to see life in human beings as nature itself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I wonder if we can somehow drop the stories, the belief systems, and kind of be as natural as possible, like nature, like trees and flowers.
Absolutely.
I wonder.
Yeah, that's why we need to meditate, right? To remind ourselves that we are nature. My philosopher, whom I love, he wrote a book that is, I don't think it's been, it's a Nature und Geist, which means nature and spirit. And he basically says, well, we are nature. Our nature is made in such a way that we can reflect on it, but we shouldn't trick ourselves in thinking that our reflection on it is what we really are. Creating a too rigid structure of who we are makes our illusion heavier. So we should be able to keep the natural flow of being as strong as possible, because that is the source of our vitality. And then, of course, our reflecting nature is, the way in which we make sense of things that we happen to be awake for. Because, there are so many things that our nature is that, unfortunately, we cannot be present to everything. We have moments of presence, and in these moments, we try to make sense.
That's true, given the very nature of thinking, right? That we are able to reflect, think, and be, and operate in time. In nature itself, it's not in time. It's right. It's here all completely. The time, right? I love the depth of your wisdom, how deep you can get. Really,
thanks,
it's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for being you. Oh my God, Susie. saying just that word because of, I was raised as a Catholic too in Brazil, and then that word God still comes, but now it's more like God, Goddess, everything is just one thing operating.
Of course.
The introduction you sent me for your book, it's so interesting. I could not stop reading it and just writing passages and reflecting. I could not stop. It's just so fascinating. I love
Thank you so
how
much.
you explore this theme that is so close to our hearts, all of us human beings. Thank you so much again.
My pleasure.
And before I ask you my final questions, I do have the ending questions.
Yes.
Would you like to add anything else or read a passage in your book?
Not really. I think I'm too shy for that. I'm very happy that you found passages. That's a great opportunity for me to have you spotting light here and there. That was already a wonderful opportunity for me.
Yeah, there are so many more actually at the time, but we might come back. So let me know when the book's published. I would love to talk to you again. I have so many more questions. And the last ones, let me see. So I have too many here. Let me ask you, what is another word for life?
Okay. Wow, that's a very good question. I don't know, probably I'm too influenced by Greek, ancient Greek, and I would say Zoe. I mean, I would say, to come back also to what we were saying a minute ago, it's really this zone. I mean, the natural life, the nature, I mean, being, just being as nature. As this flow that goes independently of our power of control, which is just an illusion. You know, Greek generally uses, they use different words. But the way in which they indicate life might be bios or zoe. But, you know, while bios has this reflective component built in it, zoe is really the flow of nature. And I would indicate life with this kind of power. But it's something I should think more on. That's my very first answer to your question. Yeah.
If you think about any other word, other way to interpret or see life, let me know. I'll have that on your podcast in a written form. And my last question is, what are 3 things about life you wish everyone to experience before they die?
Well, my life is not as experienced as I wish to give an answer to a beautiful question like this. Certainly love, you know, the unconditional, pure, welcoming love. Often they say that, parents can love unconditionally, but that's all. And, you know, to all the people who were born from dysfunctional families, snap, they lost their opportunity to be loved unconditionally. So, I wish for everyone to experience unconditional love. Oh dear, and now since I'm thinking of love, I'm thinking of the beauty of an orgasm, the beauty of experiencing love through your body, through powerful feeling of enjoyment. I think it's a beautiful experience as well. And the lightness of playfulness. I really love lightness. I really love playfulness. I love feeling one with other people around and enjoying, the moment, the time being, without having to worry or to think too much. That sense of communion, but with lightness and playfulness. That's what comes to mind now.
I love all that. I have to say the same word. I love your wisdom. I love your presence. Thank you so much, Susie. Wow. Playfulness.
Thank you, Valeria.
So true. So true.
Why not? Especially with this COVID situation, we are... a little, more worried than before.
Yeah,
now.
right. Too much in our heads, right?
Exactly.
Thank you so much again. And before we say goodbye, where can we find more information about you, your books, products, services, and future projects?
Thank you, Valeria. So you can find more information about me on my column, my blog on Psychology Today, lying on the philosopher's couch. On academia.edu, you can find, my boring academic articles. And I think on Amazon, you can find more or less all that I published. I mean, if you read Italian, I also published collections of tales and fables in case you like, a lighter writing. And that's all, I guess. Yes. I was thinking that also if you would be curious about what is philosophical counseling, or you would like to book a session of philosophical counseling or consulting, it depends where you are listening to this podcast. There's my page, Intention in Practice, which is my website where I explain a little bit more about philosophical counseling.
Oh, wonderful. I'll have those links on your podcast profile. Thank you so much again,
Thank you so
Susie.
much.
We'll talk soon. Bye for now.
Thank you, Valeria.
Thank
Bye.
you, Susie.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Dr. Susi Ferrarello and her work, please visit practicalintentionality.com and psychologytoday.com/intl/contributors/Susie-Ferrarello-PhD.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.